Hello, I'm Irfan, and I'm going to talk to you about 5 misconceptions of a diplomat that people really needs to know the truth. Like any other professions, diplomat is also subject to misconception about what they really do in the public. What I'm going to do for the next few minutes is to answer 5 misconceptions about diplomats, and I will tell some perspective on uh, my career or my new career as a new kid on the block about how the profession really is. The first one relates to how that there is an impression of a diplomat is always about parties or attending conferences. But this is much not true because diplomat has 5 primary functions, some of them relating to negotiation or representation, but there are other tasks as well, such as the duty to protect, the duty to report, and the duty to promote. So, in essence, not only we attend conferences in big cities such as in New York or in Geneva, but we also have the duty to protect our citizens' interest, but and also to report to our HQ about the situation in our host country where we are placed. Uh, the second one relates to the notion that a diplomat is a good liar. Uh, this is not much the truth because defending country's interests is one thing, but maintaining integrity is the other thing around. What I would like to emphasize that diplomat is not lying, but a good diplomat has a subtle ways and tactfulness to deliver a message from their administration about their conditions or the relationship about country in a way that it does not offend, or at least to avoid any chances of their counterparts being offended or being um, in a way feel a certain negative sentiment. So it's not about we are good in lying, but we have this kind of tactfulness in delivering our messages. The third one relates to the concept of how a diplomat is always associated with aristocracy, which means that to be a diplomat, you really need to come from a certain background that is coming from an upper higher class of society. Well, this is not the true, at least in the context of the 21st century. We have seen that the profession of a diplomat has transformed into a more inclusive profession, which civilians, ordinary civilians, can join into this profession, particularly in the context of the 20th and the 21st century, where the meritocracy is very much upheld in this profession. At least, if I can give you a further example, how the diplomatic entrance test was very much rigorous in Indonesia, where we need to pass at least 8 stages of test. And in this case, I can assure you, whether you're a certain son or daughter from a former sultan, or whether you're whether you have a connection with the senior official, for example, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it does not really matter. But what really matters is when you decided to become a diplomat, that you really need to fulfill the competencies as required by the ministry itself. And the fourth one relates to the myth that a diplomat is always working abroad throughout their entire career. Well, this is in a way not true because diplomat career path comprise of 2 major things. Firstly is when they are working within various working units at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs yeah, for a certain part of their life. For example, they need to work 3 to 5 years in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then after that, they got posted in various Indonesian representative office uh, for a posting period of 3 to 4 years, and after that they came back into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs HQ, and so on and so forth until the end of their career. So their working career is very much divergent, and it's not only about working abroad. And the last one is about how a diplomat is very much in need of having a international relations degree. I think that's not true because I myself does not have a degree in international relations. I come from a law education background, And I think, in summary, how we view this issue is that international relation is important. Diplomacy can be studied from the perspective of international relations. But I think how the machinery of diplomacy in a certain country really works involves wide array of people coming from divergent field of study. For example, from the field of economics, the field of law, and the field of cultural studies as well, or political sciences. Uh, in a short, I can give you an example. For example, in the context of economic diplomacy, when you need to assess whether garnering or having economic partnership with a certain country is economically beneficial, then you need to take into account expertise from diplomats coming from an economic background so that you can pinpoint or assess it accurately whether those trading relationship will eventually economically beneficial for Indonesia. Or even in the context of making a treaty or drafting a treaty, when you have the need to assess whether a certain clause in a certain treaty have a certain implication for your country's interest, then that's when people or diplomat coming from legal background steps up to take the places and to assess whether those clauses are really consistent with our national interest, for example, or whether we have drafted a certain agreement or treaty in correct way that is in a way not contravening, for example, the law of treaties in general. So, in a nutshell, I think being a diplomat really, or diplomacy in general, really involves a wide array of issues. So, if you happen to be interested to be a diplomat, but you're not coming from an international relation background, I think there's no need to worry. You can still catch up, and yeah, let's see whether you can be accepted at the civil servant test. I think that's all for me. I hope that this tip is beneficial for you, and I hope that we can stay healthy for the remainder of this pandemic and stay safe, everyone. And thank you. Goodbye.